Hello, everyone. We are back here again on day 2 of the Ethical Gem Fair Tucson, we're calling it. And thank you all for joining. Really appreciate you all kind of attending, coming back, joining the community. Just a couple of housekeeping things as maybe a few more people join. You are in a session right now. On the left-hand nav that you can kind of see, there's sessions. You can actually peruse that section to see who might be speaking at what times over the next couple of days. And then after, Stuart and I talk about Moyo this morning. Usually each session opens up a block of time that people can then visit our tables, which are located in the lounge. So after this, you will sort of be released from the session, and then you can enter the lounge and actually go to any of our branded supplier tables, sit down, have a chat with us. We'd love to know more about you and your business. We have gems to show, and we can continue the conversation from there. So there's also a couple of organizations that have joined us. I'm hoping that Cecilia Gardner from Jewelry Industry Summit will be here talking about that organization and their initiatives. And then so she'll have a table. And also Rachel Derry of Gem Legacy, who they support a 501c3 that benefits artisanal miners in East Africa. So there's lots of fun suppliers to kind of go visit. You can table hop. You can turn on your camera and microphone at each location so that we can see you and talk to you and interact. It's a lot more fun than just the talking heads up here right this moment. But I'm here. I'm Monica Stephenson. I am the founder of ANZA Gems in 2015. I'm also one of the collaborating partners for Moyo Gems, which is what we're kind of talking about specifically today. And I am a gem dealer who participates in this project as a trader, along with Stuart Poole of 1948, who's here today as well. And we thought we would just kind of give you a brief overview of what Moyo is, maybe how it came about, and then a little bit about the fact that we've been able to pull off remote market days since we can't travel to East Africa right now. So yeah, we would just love to kind of fill you in a little bit on Moyo. I came to Moyo, I think I had heard about the GIA project with Robert Weldon and PACT. And I had met Christina Villegas of PACT, who is a force, if any of you know her and have met her. And I was incredibly intrigued by this project, this gemological education project that they were doing with artisanal miners in the Tanga region of Tanzania. I had been there a couple of times in my own business and had actually purchased some beautiful gems from that region. So I knew that there were beautiful gems, and I also understood the realities of mining there. So when I found out that they were targeting, like for their education pilot, women miners of the Tanzania Women Miners Association, I was incredibly intrigued because again, the idea of kind of supporting marginalized miners was always part of my business plan. So I would say it kind of took a bit of it was like a meeting of the minds of all these people who had various interests in the project. We all met up at the Chicago Responsible Jewelry Conference of 2017. And we really started talking in earnest about how do we provide a market for these women's gems? So that's kind of my history and involvement, but maybe Stuart, you can kind of fill people in on how you came to this project.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Monica. So I'm Stuart. I'm from 1948, based in the UK, and as Monica said, I'm one of the other commercial partner in the Moyo Gems project. And I usually say that I kind of gate crashed this project because I remember vividly the talk from Christina that you mentioned there, Monica, in 2017 in Chicago, and We, as a company, we had already a connection with Tanzania through another project. And then as soon as I heard about the work of PACT and the GIA, I thought that's definitely something I need to be involved in. And I remember rushing out of the auditorium and going into the foyer and seeing you and Christina, I think, in deep conversation already, and pretty much just coming over and saying, quick, let me in on this. I'm really interested. And yeah, so that's my vivid memory. That's really where Moyo started for me. And it's been an incredible journey since then. I can't really believe that it's already been more than 3 years that we've been working on this project, and the team that we have and the people that have been working on it, both ourselves, but also from PACT and the people in Tanzania, and of course the members of TAWOMA, the Tanzania Women's Miners Association. We've all come together in such a great way and almost seamlessly across the thousands of miles and the multiple time zones and the different countries, and all with this single purpose, as you said, to give all of the miners a direct route to the international market. And essentially the bottom line is to get them the absolute best return for their gemstones. That's what we're trying to do. And already, even in the early stages of the project, we've seen such an amazing impact on the communities there and on the individuals there. And of course, in normal times when we're allowed to be there, then we meet the same miners at the different market days, and we see the progress that they're making. We can visit them in their communities, we can see them in their mine sites, and and it's great to think that this, even at this early stage in what will, I'm sure, become a very long-term project, we are seeing such a huge impact, a beneficial impact on those communities and the miners themselves. That's what it's all about.
I agree. And sometimes when we say 2017 aloud, I'm like, oh, that's so long ago. That's been so long. The reality is that it was the kernel of an idea in 2017, right? We had to then flesh that out, develop it. One really memorable trip for me was in 2018 when we all went, including a representative from Everledger, the provenance proof, Googling blockchain, and PACT, and we met with TAWOMA and we met with the miners, and we were kind of on a mission to see. We had developed this idea of how can we not just provide a market, but actually kind of empower and educate women miners, artisanal miners, to fully participate in the global trade, right? That's kind of the basic concept. And we are very unique. In the jewelry industry, it's very unusual to have NGOs also working with commercial partners, right? It's usually stay in your lane, right? So it's kind of an interesting collaboration, and kind of not without its difficulties in terms of establishing how does this work and who has what role within this organization. But we took this trip in 2018 with these ideas of what we wanted to do, but we had a facilitated discussion with the women themselves. So 50 or 60 women came to the school in, I think it was Yombeni, in Tonga, the Tonga region. We're all talking about a relatively small, but still fairly substantial area in northern Tanzania that's close to the Kenyan border. The Umba Valley, where the Umba River has kind of cut through, and there's a lot of gems that are found, alluvial deposits. And that was the region that GIA and PACT kind of targeted, and TAWOMA happens to have a very active chapter there with really strong leadership in terms of organizing the miners, getting information out to the villages. So this was a perfect place for, there's a reason why GIA and PACT kind of focused on this region. And And we were kind of following on their heels to kind of see, okay, now the women are sorting and grading some of their material. They have a little bit better knowledge of what they're finding. So how do we take this to the next level and actually maybe give a little more scaffolding to them in terms of like occupational health and safety training, so that they can mine a little bit better and safer, more educational training, which we do a lot at the buying table. And then just kind of also understanding a little bit about what their market value is. By dealing directly with traders, we actually work with brokers within the system, but we want to make sure that we're kind of operating in the system in a way that's beneficial to kind of everyone in that ecosystem, so that we don't have unintended consequences of people circumventing the system or feeling like they have been cut out of the system. But it still is interesting to kind of be at the market table directly across from the miner, and we're sort of negotiating more directly with the miner. So for the very first time, these women understand what their value is on kind of the international market level, instead of a local broker giving them maybe a few, like the equivalent of a couple of US dollars for it, and then having it go trade 10, 12, 20 times before it ends up even crossing the border. So clearly they're getting it's shortening the supply chain incredibly, but it's also giving them a glimpse of kind of what their actual value is in the marketplace. But to get to that point, we wanted to do this sort of due diligence to kind of see, what do the women want from the market? What do you want? What are your challenges? How can we craft this so that it actually benefits you in a way that you find really, something to actually lift you up, and not just provide a one-off market for your gemstones, but something that is sustainable and something that we can participate in. So that was a really memorable trip in 2018. And then we were thwarted in 2018 by a rough gemstone ban out of Tanzania. You literally could not export any rough in 2018. So we had done all the research, and we talked to these women, and we were like so ready to go, and we couldn't actually buy anything at that time because they don't have very good gem processing in country. So for us to export faceted or cabochon stones, there just isn't that capability there at the time. So I remember being like both incredibly energized, but also really, really discouraged because we couldn't actually buy their gems. So yes, but that led us to the first market day in 2019 when we actually could buy their gemstones. How did you feel at that first market day? Like, it was so much prep, and there were so many things that we tried to plan for. And then bottom line is, you show up and you don't know what's going to happen. What were your thoughts that first day?
I think it's important to say that obviously we've gone into this really trying to prove the concept, haven't we? We've got, like you say, we've got this idea of how things should be, how things should go. But we also have an understanding that when you're out there in the field, there are so many moving parts, and the goalposts are shifting the whole time. So it's you plan for as many things as you can, and then probably a few dozen other things come along into the process, and you just have to handle those as they come up. I think it's an amazing testament to the team, as I mentioned before, to the team that we have, that things have gone as smoothly as they have. If you think that, as you mentioned, we had the export ban to deal with, and to wait for that to be lifted for some time, and of course more recently we'll come on to the situation in 2020 with the pandemic. So we have had a fairly rough ride, but within our small windows of opportunity, I think we've really achieved a lot. I think that we managed to have the successful market days that we didn't know how it was going to go on the ground. We didn't know necessarily the personalities involved, or the the different say government officials and even some of the the mining officials and that kind of thing. So we had a lot of unknowns to contend with, and without being too self-congratulatory, that I think we have done really well. We have managed to undertake the market days, to fulfill the transactions, to get the money into the hands of the miners. And I think, as you mentioned, the fact that we have established a model where we're working with the local brokers, for example. We're not trying to circumvent things that we shouldn't. We're not trying to put people who are conducting legitimate businesses and have livelihoods that they need to maintain. We're not trying to disrupt that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to maximize it for them. And so I think maybe, whilst there probably are a few of the middlemen who don't add so much value, who may be losing out a little bit, I think the major players, if you like, in the supply chain, so the miners, the brokers, and also the government, we haven't got to lose sight of that, they are all pretty satisfied with what we've managed to put together. So I think with these very small windows that we've had, and literally just being there for a week at a time, and trying to do everything within that week, and work with our team there, with largely from Pact, our local exporter there, and trying to get everything together within those few days. It's gone remarkably smoothly. And I know that we've had some challenges, and that's why we're doing it, isn't it? That it's proving that concept, is making sure that we've got this framework and this structure that hopefully will be a model that we can roll out with lots more participants, so lots more people on the commercial side, and of course reaching lots more miners. So I think when I look back on it, the experiences we've had so far, I think the good things and the positive things stick in my mind much more than those long weeks and months waiting for the ban to be lifted and things like that, because we couldn't do anything about those. That was just waiting for the government to change the rules again. And once they did, I think when we got there, we were on the ground there, and we really maximized the use of our time. So all things considered, I've only got positive really memories of what we've done so far.
When I think,
how about you?
Yeah. So in 2019, when I really think about the fact that our first market day wasn't until May of 2019, and we're just coming up on the 2-year mark for that. So that's actually not that long ago. And so, and it, to your point, it takes time to achieve any kind of success, I think, with a brand new endeavor and a new model and a new way of doing business. It takes time anyway. And in doing business here in East Africa and navigating things like the government, we chose to make the government one of the stakeholders, really, in a sense, of this project. Again, we want to make sure that we are including all parties and making sure that we are doing the right thing for all of the participants. So legality was kind of one of our base elements of, we really wanted these women to have some formalization, because a lot of them were mining under verbal contracts or verbal commitments, and they can be taken advantage of in those situations. And so the idea of actually having them be licensed to mine, and Pact painstakingly double-checked all of those licenses against the regional mining office. Like, I remember the stacks of paper before that very first market day. So, those kinds of commitments take time, and it takes time to build. But the idea is that we are creating, to your point, a model that could actually then be rolled out to additional areas and additional mining regions. We would love for the benefits that there are real benefits that have come from this initiative program. Some of it is a better financial identity and knowledge for the women, and we're going to be building on that. And also, like I said, knowing what their value is, and actually being able to net far more of the export price, much more directly, is another major benefit of this program. But I think, you know, bottom line is, before that first market day, we didn't really know if anybody was going to show up. We didn't know if like anybody got the memo, like we're going to be here, we're going to be buying your gems. And then so when literal, you know, buses rolled in with these incredible, you know, women like dressed in their you know, their finery, really, or proudly in their Moyo shirts, like that was a huge reward. But I will say that, you know, almost a year ago, we were in Tucson making big plans, like for 2020 and what we were going to do and how we were going to expand. And then COVID hit, right? And so not only could we not get there, but we're also getting reports of the detrimental effects of there's no buyers. All the buyers left East Africa in January, February. And so for months, you know, like there's literally no meaningful gem trading activity. So, and we can't get there. So we were really, we did organize a food drive, like a Gem Legacy. At the time, Rachel Derry of Gem Legacy, which, like I said, is a 501c3, she was actually in Tanzania and was able to very quickly kind of start organizing with local mining communities who were in the greatest need, and started distributing aid. So in the form of going to local markets, buying beans, rice, oil, sugar, tea, and then having masks made, because it's really difficult to kind of, on their incomes, afford things like hand sanitizer and masks and the kinds of things that we sort of take for granted, and being able to just, you know, have. Gem Legacy really organized deliveries to these specific mining communities. So for the Moyo community, we kind of teamed up and linked Tawoma with Gem Legacy, and they were able to distribute some aid to about 60 or 70 of the most needy families at the mining families at the time. So we kind of kicked in with like that kind of support, and we find ourselves having to pivot again. You know, how do we help? So it took a little bit, but in, was it November, Stuart, or October that we did a remote market?
Yeah, October.
So, yeah, so maybe you could talk a little bit about the remote market day we managed to pull off without us actually being able to travel.
I can indeed, but I think just following on from your point about the you know, the distribution of food and things, I think what we saw during 2020 with those activities, and then subsequently with the remote market day, was really, it was the benefit of the strong relationships that we have now set up. So all of that groundwork that we've done, and getting to know the people, for them getting to know us, and establishing the relationship and establishing that trust. And then I think in the completely obviously unforeseen emergency circumstances that we had, we were able to get a lot more done, which was essentially, it was outside of the scope of what we would have normally thought of as the Moyo project, but of course absolutely vital given the circumstances. So that was brilliant for me to see that, you know, all those people that we know there, and the people on the ground, the people in, you know, in the US and UK, all over, all came together and could work effectively, even just being thrown into these, like I say, really unusual situations. And so then, of course, that followed on, that we were able to work with our local team to set up the remote market day. Of course, it's strange. Now, gem buying is all about sitting there at the table with the miner, negotiating, looking at the material, holding it in your hand, understanding what you're buying. And we weren't able to do any of that. But what we could do is we could rely on our experts on the ground. And I'm very optimistic that the things that we bought, which I still haven't actually seen myself, they've gone to our cutting workshop. They're directly there from Tanzania to our workshop in Sri Lanka. And so I'm still very optimistic that we're going to see some fantastic stones come out of that. So I think the important thing probably for the designers in the audience is to know that despite the very challenging times that we've gone through, we will both be bringing brand new Moyo gemstones to the market. They'll be on our websites, that they'll be available for you to see pretty soon. So that supply chain, which is absolutely essential, of course, for the miners, is continuing relatively undisrupted. It's been amazing how we've managed to keep that going, and of course, coming into this year, we were able to have another market day, a remote one. So we've kind of proven the concept, and we've got that supply chain up and running again, which, as I say, is really what the miners absolutely need. Even more so at the moment with the lack of other buyers in the country to sell their gemstones. So it's an absolutely crucial lifeline for them, and it's been great to see us all come together to be able to do that. And I suspect that, unfortunately, this model is going to be continuing for a few months to come at the very least, before we're able to do anything differently. So I think it's really shown the strength of the project and the strength of the relationships in a quite unexpected way, and incredibly gratifying as well that we, like I said, we have all come together to keep things going and to keep that forward momentum.
I absolutely, I'm incredibly grateful that we have the local partners that we do, and we did have that runway of at least like 2019 to establish some like you said, relationships, and it made all the difference. If we had never been able to visit, I think it would be a very different conversation. The fact that we were able to kind of lay that groundwork, and that we have such incredible partners in terms of PACT Tanzania. They worked so hard, particularly on this last market day. They are working really hard, but Tawoma is really the keystone to all of this. Their relationships with the miners, like they know every single miner who's participating in this program. They know what they mine, where they mine it. They know their challenges and difficulties. They know how to reach them in the event of, kind of the market days and the emergencies. So it really is a testament to our local partners that we've been able to do this. And again, I can't wait to go back, and maybe later in 2021 we can go. I happen to have a few photos. Maybe we could end on just a few photos from the most recent remote market day was last week, which is really kind of amazing and crazy to think about. But if I can share my screen, we could maybe narrate a few of the photos just to kind of show people who the miners are. We know their names. We've purchased a lot of material from the women who are shown. We maybe have not purchased something from every single woman, every single market day, but over time, hopefully we can kind of purchase from most of them. So I'm going to try to share my screen and see if this works.
I think this is the really crucial part of our project, is that especially for people who are using the Moyo gemstones in their jewelry, then you can see here that we have this incredible depth of the story and the connection to the miners, and so that's something that you are able to then convey to your customers. So as you're using the Moyo gems, selling the pieces with those gems, that you do have this incredible traceability and the depth, as I say, of the story, right back to the individual miners and their specific kind of mining communities, that you can tell that story to your customers. And I think that's really, really powerful.
I agree. And when we say that these are traceable, literally we know the name and the village of where all of these gems come from. This is actually our PAC Tanzania representative, Norbert, who we could not do this project without him for sure. But I love this photo with the ladies from Kigwasi. This is Bahati, and we have purchased some really lovely gems from her. And she, if you've been following along on social media, she's often the one with a baby in tow to the market. These photos were all taken in the village of Kalalani, Tanzania, which we were very fortunate to have the market actually in their village, which I think is incredibly important for us, because when we say these women are marginalized, many of them, like there's no electricity in these villages. There's very little connectivity. They might share phones, and a lot of the phones are not smartphones. Transportation is an issue. So having the market actually in their village is a huge issue. I'm hoping that Stuart bought that ruby.
I'm hoping that too. We usually try to when we see them. So.
Yes. So to connect us a little bit more to the miners, we all did little videos from wherever in the world we were and combined them. And then the videos were played for the miners as they were waiting to enter the trading room. So here they are watching, I think, Norbert's laptop with our video, like our welcome videos, expressing how sad we are that we can't be there, but it connects us a little bit more in that circumstance. They're watching. Again, these are, I think, a lot of the Maasai women kind of come from Kigwasi. This is the actual trading room itself. This is our export broker in the foreground, and I believe that's Salma across from him. She usually has gorgeous rhodolites in the Kalalani region. But it shows you kind of the realities of our buying situation, which is white cardstock, a torch, a visor, a scale, and a calculator. So that's kind of our tools, our remote buying tools, and we're very lucky to have our export broker be able to evaluate and negotiate kind of on our behalf. More of the trading room. These are the women wearing their Moyo shirts proudly. Right before the first market day, we all got Moyo shirts. I'm not wearing mine right now, sadly, but
I'm on brand. So.
But very nice, very nice. But it's really wonderful to see. They're so happy. They're so proud that this is their market. This belongs to them, and you can just see the pride in their gems, their smiles, their just the way they come to market is really quite remarkable. This is Sarah, and we have purchased sapphire from her. She's been mining for about 40 years. I love these two. And this is a mother-daughter miner duo, which it's hard to tell who's the mother, who's the daughter. They're so beautiful. And here's some of the rough. I have had the opportunity to see the rough from the, this is the rough from the Market Day 4, unlike Stuart, who sends his to Sri Lanka for their cutting facility. We have everything cut in the US. So I had this all spread out relatively recently, deciding what's going to go to Beth to be faceted. This is a particularly lovely zircon that came from that market day. And then, of course, some of the faceted gems. So I think, it's important to think about the fact that it's not just abstract. It's not just the story. Like, there's actually really beautiful gems as well. So Speaking of which, we should probably wrap this up and head to the tables, where I actually do have some, lovely Moyo gems to show. Beth Steer, our cutter in the U.S., was working overtime right ahead of the show, so I do have about 20 new Moyo gems to show, as well as ANZA. And Stuart, I hope you have some things as well.
I absolutely do, yes. So I'll put a few links there into the chat, just directing people to our website. And yes, I'll be at my lounge table shortly and happy to continue the conversation. So thank you everyone for coming along.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll see you at the tables. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.